All right, here we go. Good afternoon, folks. It is Tuesday, January 25th. Welcome back to Live at 5 with Jane and Jody. We are excited, as always, to have you, and it's an alumni panel this evening. So super excited to bring a variety of conversation and your experience and what your opportunities might be post-graduation from SCNM. All right, so real quick, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jane Voorhees. I'm one of the admissions representatives here at SCNM, ready to help you with your application, get you ready for a successful interview. I work with candidates whose last names begin with letters M through Z. I work with that half of the alphabet, have been at SCNM off and on for 9 years. Truly love helping this program grow and this medicine. It's, probably much like you guys, my own health journey that brought me here in its own roundabout way. So super excited to be here. While you're with us this evening, you are invited. Please turn on your cameras. Feel free to jump into the conversation and ask questions. Use the chat bar to post your questions. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. But for those of you that do turn on your camera, from time to time, I'll take a screenshot. And if your camera is on, you are entered into a drawing, and you might win a prize from our SCNM Medicine area or something fun here from SCNM. We've got books we've given away, T-shirts, fun things like that. So turn on your cameras and join us this evening for this great conversation. All right, enough about me. Jody.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I am Jody. So I'm actually Jane's other half in the admissions team. I work with the beginning of the alphabet, though. So I work with A through L, but do exactly like Jane does, where we, review your transcripts and all that good stuff. I am originally from South Bend, Indiana, so back where it's nice and cold this time of the year. Moved out here almost 20 years ago. In June, it'll be 20 years. I've been with SCNM in August was 15 years. So I've seen a lot of students come through the program, become alumni, and make this profession very, very proud. So welcome, great alumni on here tonight. I'm excited to hear from them. Once you become an alumni, we don't stay in contact as much as we'd like to, but I love seeing them come back and doing something like this. So welcome, everybody. I usually share a core value. I usually pick one of the 5 for each one of these segments. Tonight I picked, so core values, of course, are beliefs of our institution. And so today I picked, we shape the future. The future is you. We work side by side with our students to help you along the way, such as prerequisite suggestions, application process, and helping you to prepare for this incredible journey you are about to embark on. So have fun tonight, ask lots of questions, and you'll get great advice from these great alumni out there.
You are the future. And I love that. That's perfect for even this evening, because
exactly.
These alumni, were our past, and they were our future at one point, and here they are. So that's a good one, Jody. I really like it. All right, so a little bit about the great folks that you're going to meet here in just a little bit. We'll have Dr. Robert Greathouse. Dr. Greathouse is originally from Buffalo, New York, so I'm sure he's loving Arizona. He had a degree from Clark Summit University from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He actually graduated SCNM just in June 2021 in the midst of COVID-19. So I'm kind of curious to hear about that experience a little bit. Fun hobbies, golf, baking, student shoe shopping. Oh boy. He's got a tough noggin. Somehow he made it through medical school, even with 8 concussions. So we should get that guy a helmet, I think. All right, also joining us is going to be Dr. Alexandra Mayer. She co-owns Ethos Integrative Medicine. She is originally from Ontario, Canada. So that's super exciting. We definitely have some international candidates, I'm sure, on the line tonight. And she originally had a bachelor's degree from University of Western Ontario from 2014. I don't know what the major was, though. We'll learn a little bit more in here in just a moment. Her hobbies include ballroom dancing of all kinds. So that's fun. All right, one more. Gosh, this is a great panel tonight. Dr. Michelle McConnell is joining us right here, an Arizona native, born in Phoenix, degree in microbiology right here from ASU. So definitely we are lucky to have her joining us. Graduated in 2014. And she practices, of course, right here in Chandler, just down the street at Live Well Wellness Center. So we're going to learn a little bit about that group practice setting over there. Her hobbies include taking time for herself. I love that, especially in today's day and age, a little bit of self-care. All right, so all right, let's go right back to the top. Dr. Greathouse, please, hello, say hello. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you got interested in naturopathic medicine. Did you always know you wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I originally found naturopathic medicine not until senior year of undergrad. So I kind of came late in my life, had no idea it even existed until then. And originally wanted to go into physical therapy, was always kind of in the health sciences field. And then about junior year of college, I kind of didn't want to do PT anymore. Thought about athletic training, maybe PA school, maybe MD school. And I'd pretty much convinced myself of MD school. And then my sister, I'd come home from college at one point, and my sister, who was struggling with some PCOS and some other hormonal things and prediabetes and all these things, had seen a conventional doc and was offered pretty much just pills, which can be useful. We definitely use those at times. They're a great tool, but for her situation, she didn't want to go that route. And so she ended up finding a MD that practiced functional medicine. And within about a 6-month span, had reversed the prediabetes and the PCOS and all these things she had going on without using pharmaceuticals. And my mind was blown. I had no idea that could be done. I'd never heard of anything like that being done. And so I was like, I need to check this out. And so I interned with that doc for about 3 months and was just blown away, opened up to this whole other world of medicine that really, all medicine changes lives, but I think naturopathic medicine in a different way, that real personal development and having people grow, not just in their health, but their own, life skills and all those things, and actual, reversal of that disease. And so, yeah, that was what turned me on to naturopathic medicine. And I was convinced from there.
I think I dove a little quick. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us a little bit about your background that I didn't share?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Background. I'm a resident right now at SCNM, first year resident, and loving it. It's a great environment to work. You see patients in all different realms, specialties, focuses, because we work with so many docs that focus on different things, whether that's conditions, modalities, and different specialties and those sorts. So that's been really neat and exciting. And I just had a baby. Well, I didn't, my wife did, but 3 weeks old. So adding that into, the residency.
Oh, fun.
Nice. So if you have any life balance questions, definitely throw them my way. So yeah, those are the top things. And I might be pursuing a career in pickleball. We'll see.
Oh,
We'll see. I've been playing a lot lately.
awesome.
Some praise here in the Valley. I've heard some about that recently.
I know. Me too. Me too.
Well, thank you, Dr. Greathouse. It's great to hear a little bit from you. I just took a peek and I did see Dr. Mayer on the line with us. So welcome. Same question. Anything else you'd like to add a little bit about your background? And did you know that naturopathic medicine was always for you?
So I think what led me to naturopathic medicine is it's a really similar story to everybody else's, right? I actually didn't have much experience with naturopathic medicine, but my family just had a lot of health concerns. So a lot of cancer, Alzheimer's, things like that, things that I felt like would be preventable. And I felt like we just needed better care for. I noticed that my family wasn't getting the best care. And my mom went to go see a naturopathic doctor for eczema, actually. And she said to me when she got home, I went to go see this doctor. I don't know what he does, and I don't know what kind of doctor he was, but he was really interesting. You should look into it. And I looked into naturopathic medicine, and I realized that was kind of what I wanted to do. I definitely thought about going, traditional medicine. I thought about going PT, which now looking back, I think would have been hilarious because I actually hate everything bone related, and I would have been a terrible PT. And so it's good that I didn't do that. So for me, that's what led me here. I think my practice is definitely shaped differently over the years. Like I don't treat any cancer in my practice at all. But I still think that what naturopathic medicine brings to patients, it just brings them better treatment options. I think it brings them better care, it brings them optimal lifestyle. And so I think at the end of the day, that's what I felt like was missing in the past, but I couldn't necessarily put my finger on it until I got into practice and then really realized what we bring to patients.
Very good.
I can't wait to circle back on that. I mean, you knew it right off, like your family wasn't getting the best care. And I want to come back in a minute and kind of dive deeper into that. Like, did you think, okay, I have to go treat people with cancer? Like that's what I have to do versus, being more open to it, right?
Absolutely.
And then you realize like that's it's not about the actual disease. It's more about that.
Yeah, no, it's not about the disease. It's not. I mean, in my patients, I treat very, very healthy patients. But our patients they're just not feeling like the best version of themselves. And what I love to do, so I do female hormones and aesthetics in my practice. And I love to help my women show up as the best version of themselves in their life. And so you can't do that if you feel like crap. Like you just can't do that. And so it just definitely evolved over time, I think, in my practice. My ideal practice is definitely different than maybe what you think of going into naturopathic medical school, because I just don't treat a lot of chronic diseases, but I love it, what I bring to patients.
How exciting. All right, I can't wait to hear more. Let's definitely introduce Dr. McConnell real quick, briefly as well. Please elaborate any additional you'd like to add about your background. And Dr. McConnell, was naturopathic medicine always the original direction for you?
Well, it was kind of a lifestyle change for me that got me into naturopathic medicine. I was raised your traditional way with conventional doctors and take the pills, and if you even feel anything, take whatever is in the supermarket. I don't know, but the change came when I moved to Park City, because that was Park City, Utah. That was a little bit of a community change. We focused on more natural stuff in the community that I lived in. And that's just how I got into it. And on top of it, I worked in a hospital system for a long time. And I always said to myself, I want to catch patients before they get to this point. And mostly I worked in microbiology in the lab. And I was also an EMT in the state of Washington. So that's how I got into it. I basically wanted to catch people before, because most of the stuff is self-inflicted, whether we realize it or not. And I work with a group practice. We have somewhere around 12 doctors at any given time, PAs, NPs, DOs, MDs. So, and out of all of them, there's 2 naturopathic physicians in our practice. And I've been at this office for about 5 years.
Very nice office too, as I will say. I just want to get this question, and I'm probably skipping ahead here, but I want to get this question out there because I'm curious as to, so we have Dr. Greathouse, who is in a residency. So after graduation, he chose to do a residency. We have Dr. Mayer, who started her own practice. We have Dr. McConnell, who is in a group practice. How did you guys determine that was the route you wanted to go? Did you ever think of a residency? Or Dr. Mayer, hey, did you ever think of going into group practice? Or vice versa, Dr. McConnell, practice by yourself? How do you make that decision?
Well, I'll start that. I think probably for me, because I did start in private practice. I started my own office for 3 years and then decided I hated running a business. Oh, doctor, and that's what I wanted to do. Mostly marketing I hated, but wrong one. But so that was and I felt very comfortable. I'm 51 years old. I felt very comfortable in the medical seat, a medical office and doing, medicine, because I've been in it for so long. So I felt pretty confident going out and practicing and not. So that was my big thing. And after running my own practice for 3 years, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I actually had the current office that bought me out of my lease and wanted to bring me on full time. And I've been there ever since. So that was my reason for, I tried it on my own. I felt pretty confident. First, because I was 40 years old when I went to medical school. And second, because I've been in medicine. I was a pathologist assistant. I was an EMT. I think that made a huge difference out and practicing on my own without a residency or even under another doctor. So.
Okay.
So I can go next on this question.
Yeah.
So, well, Dr. McConnell, I am actually glad that you just said that. I think that business isn't for everybody. And I think that somehow in naturopathic medicine, we end up, that's like the route everybody thinks that they have to go. And that's one of the things that we really want to do at our practice is create good jobs for doctors where people who don't want to own a practice, they don't want to do the business side, they hate that side, can go and show up and do the things that they're good at. So for me, I actually got offered a residency at the school and I turned it down. And I turned it down because it was a hard decision. It was a really, really hard decision. But I turned it down because I knew that I wanted to start a business. I knew since medical school that I wanted to run a business. And so for me, I felt like there was a mixture of the lifestyle aspect, like I'm from Canada, the 2 weeks of vacation and all that. And then being here for 4 years away from my family, it just felt like another year of like things that I was not able to sacrifice at that point, mixed with the fact that I knew that I wanted to run a business and I just needed to be out there doing it. I actually love the business aspect. I love it. And so I think that's like, I'm opposite Dr. McConnell. And I think that it's really important. I'm super glad that you guys are doing these panels because I think that business isn't for everybody. And I think that we need to have a lot of different options coming forward so that people can just go out and be successful.
Well said. Oh my goodness, that was a fantastic response. Thank you. Thank you both. Go ahead, Dr. Greyhouse.
Yeah, so I also love business. I've never ran a business, but I was terrified from about year 2, knowing that I'm going to get out of school and I got to make money somehow. Because I'd worked, in the food industry and in healthcare and some other things, but not like, I guess what I would call, not what my end goal was, And so I knew that was going to be real. And what does that look like? And can I do that? Gosh, I only got 2.5 years left till I have to do that. How the heck am I supposed to do that? And so I started doing a ton of research just on my own. And I just, even though I've gained a lot of knowledge, I don't think I ever had that nice kind of step-by-step, okay, what's next, what to do here and there. And I'm the son of 2 engineers. So I'm a very like pragmatic equation, just lay it out there for me and I'll get it done. And then also in terms of, considering residency, my wife and I are from the East Coast. We want to get back to the East Coast. But I also felt that because I had heard, residency was almost like another 4 years of med school crammed into 1 or 2. I was like, oh, that sounds good. Like I could accelerate, some learning from different mentors, especially somewhere like the SCNM clinic where we've got, 25, 30 physicians that, I have the opportunity to learn from and to really hone my skills all around. There's also the option of doing a specialty residency, particularly in endocrinology, which is my favorite. And I'd consider doing that as well. And what ultimately brought me to the decision of residency was wanting to be sure, because I'm my greatest critic, as many of us are, and I wanted to be sure that I really molded my not just clinical assessment skills, but also those treatment skills. And so then also understanding that gives me a buffer for the business side, hook up with a business coach and really start implementing these things kind of piece by piece. And so just last month, I started meeting with a business coach that's only ever worked with naturopathic doctors for 30 years. He's got great reviews and everything. So far it's going great. We're really setting the foundation, because the other thing that I was terrified about was starting a business and it falling through and then ruining my family's finances, especially with the baby on the way.
Right.
All this stuff. Not that would happen, but my mind tends to think the worst. So yeah, it's been really great thus far. And yeah, residency feels like 4 years in one at this point,
Wow.
but I'm loving it. And then I'm looking forward to and very excited for the business aspect.
How exciting. I'm super impressed with all three of these different variety of responses and such incredible feedback. Like, this is truly valuable. What I wrote the biggest on my notes here is just the value of networking. Like Dr. Mayer, what you pointed out of some people don't want this and some people want more of that. So how do you guys work together and help each other grow and have the balance that you need? We've got a few small questions. All right, so guys, everybody that's joining us tonight, the guests, please know we want your questions. Please feel free to engage, ask some more questions. Jody and I have our list of questions and thoughts that we want to bring out. And we've got a few questions about your background before your careers, but now I'm super excited. I just want to go right into, okay, Dr. Mayer, tell us about a day in the life of your practice there. And yeah, I'm skipping ahead. Go ahead, Jody.
So we have a busy practice now. We recently started a residency program. So our resident is Canadian and she started in January just because of visa stuff. And so she just started with us. We have another doctor who is employed with us. And then we have 3 independent contractors that have been in practice for a very long time, as well as a decent sized support staff. So in terms of patient care, I see patients Tuesdays and Thursdays are my late days. So we see patients from 1 to 7. And then Wednesdays, we see patients in the day. Mondays, I reserve for marketing. And then Fridays, I reserve for marketing and a side business that we're working on. In terms of a day in the life of, when I am at my practice seeing patients, I am nonstop. We don't do anything other than see patients. I eat lunch before I come, and then we literally run for 8 hours. But I wouldn't want it any other way. I know that one of the docs in our practice, she takes an hour and a half lunch in the middle of the day. For me, that's not what I want. So our days are pretty go. I did have to change around our visit structures a little bit to allow for a little bit more time for charting and all the fun back end stuff that we have to do, because I learned the hard way that if you get to the very end of your day and you've had a jam-packed schedule and you didn't factor in any time for that, your life sucks. So I had to fix that. That's kind of what our days look like.
Wow.
One quick question I keep forgetting to ask. Where's your practice? Where are you located now?
Yeah, so we're located in Scottsdale. We actually just built out a new practice. So we were at Shane Scottsdale Road, and then we outgrew that space. So we just built out a brand new space.
Wow, good for you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. McConnell, how about a day in the life over there?
Well, I'm located in Chandler at Warner in the 101. We're in a medical plaza. We have 4 treatment rooms in our office, 3 support, 2 MAs, altogether 4 front desk staff, and another ND. And I recently started working 5 days a week. I work from 9 to about 4:30 or so. And we kind of tag team with the other doctor in my office. I was taking Fridays off all through the summer, and just felt like I wanted to do more because I have a lot of patients that want to get in, and we're very busy too. We're back to back. And it's so correct with what Alex said, that you really have to get your stuff done right after you see the patient if you want to have a busy practice, because you won't be able to live very well if you don't. And so we probably see, between the two docs, each of us probably see about anywhere from 10 to 20 patients a day, 5 days a week for me. The other ND that works in our office graduated from SENM. I was her preceptor, and she's at my office, and she usually takes Fridays off. So, I mean, if you plan well, you can change your schedule and what you want to do. That's never been a real problem. And I do like to take time off. So I do take Fridays and Mondays off, and I'm going on a well-needed trip to Mexico in March on spring break. So as far as our office runs very smoothly as well. We've been there for 5 years to iron out stuff, and we have a great staff. I think that makes a huge difference in a doctor's day, is to have a staff you can really rely on, and that work well together. I think that was it for the question, huh?
Yes, thank you again for elaborating. It sounds like you both have some admin staff too that kind of help with managing that scheduling, that charting, the tracking of that. A little bit of help goes a long way.
Yep.
All right, Dr. Greathouse, we're going to circle back. Tell us about a day in the life of a residency program at SCNM. One question that I just thought of too is, as a resident there, are you considered kind of part of faculty? Because you're also, obviously, you're working with some of our new students as well.
Yeah. So you're brought on full time as part of faculty. First year residency is much more kind of getting your bearings with the new schedule. So I'm assigned to 6 different rotations per week. So every 11 weeks, then those rotate. So like, for example, this quarter, I have 2 pediatrics rotations that are on Mondays and Thursdays. I have a physical medicine, more like sports med or ortho, on Tuesdays, a rheumatology rotation on Wednesdays, and a acupuncture rotation Thursdays, and a community clinic rotation on Fridays. So it's a great mix of different modalities, different focuses and specialties. On top of that, there's some outside work. So I personally am really passionate about teaching. I would eventually love to teach. My big vision is teaching in the Duke University Integrative Medical Program. Their MDs have a program for integrative medicine. We'll see if it happens, but the teaching aspect is, reviewing the charts that the students type up and then sending them to the attending, helping the students with prep work and treatment plans and those kinds of things. There's some academic work involved, so both assigned and just my own interests. And so I may include 30 to 60 minutes a day of some kind of just research, whether what I'm curious about or something for the school. Right now, we're actually taking one of the doctor's dissertation from another program that he did that has to do with thyroid. And basically, we're going to revamp that into a bunch of different papers and publish those in peer-reviewed journals, hopefully, which will help build that base as far as my own research and my name out there. So yeah, that's kind of the component. Right now my schedule is really nice because every day is a half day for me, except for Thursdays. I have a full day. So I work 4 hours at the clinic every day. Thursdays I'm there for 8 or 10. And then it's just charting outside of that, helping students. We have a rotation with an on-call phone, which is kind of fun at this point in my career, maybe not so much later, depending on what happens. But I find it kind of fun to get a call at 2 a.m. and you're kind of just on, you got to be on your game. You wake up and what's going on? How can I help you? What do I got to do? And so at this point in life, well, right now with the baby, I'm up at 2 a.m. anyways, but so yeah, that's kind of a quick run through the day.
Interesting. All right, so I have a follow-up. You mentioned all these different types of shifts. You've mentioned pediatrics, physical medicine, acupuncture, community clinic. So are you doing rotations in both the medical center and the Neil Reardon Center for Regenerative Medicine? Are they in two different places?
Yeah, so I
Awesome.
have the majority of them are at the medical center on campus, and then one is also at the Neil Reardon Center on campus, and the community clinic is at an offsite in just south of the airport in Phoenix, and so that's a majority Spanish-speaking clinic, which I took French in high school, so useless, but that clinic is specifically for low income or no income families, and we totally free treatment, free everything, free assessment, lab draws, the whole nine. So,
wow. All right. All right. Thank you all for sharing. I'm going to address that. We've got some notes in the chat bar, so I want to address those and make sure we do address questions. Okay. Can we please find out more about residency process after medical school? Is it the same as traditional where you apply and hope to match? Also, panelists mentioned that they decline. Is it affecting licensing taking board? Not 100% sure what she meant by the second part, but Dr. Greathouse, please.
yeah, so as far as the match process, it's similar and different to how like MDs and DOs would go through, but essentially the process is you apply to our central match system through the AANMC. There's a certain stepwise process that you go through of writing some essays and an application, CV, resume type thing that gets submitted, and then interviews are set up after that, where you can interview with different practices that request an interview, and that can be as few or as many as you'd like, or as will take you. And then once the interview process is complete, that's about a 2.5 month span. There is a match day where, fast forward before that. Once the interviews are complete, there's a deadline where both the applicant and the clinics will all submit their priority lists. And so, I may list that, okay, SCNM is my number 1 choice. My number 2 choice is some other clinic. My number 3 choice is a different clinic. And then each clinic will list their top students that they would like. So number 1 might be student X, number 2, student Y, and so forth. And so then some fancy algorithm in a computer somewhere puts those all together, and then you find out, okay, this clinic matched with this person and this person to that clinic and that sort of thing. And then you have your job offer and so forth.
Oh.
So similarities and differences. What was the second part of that question? I think you're muted.
She said something
Thank
about
you.
penalties.
Yeah, it says also panelists mentioned that they decline. Is it affecting licensing taking board?
Licensing taking boards.
Margarita, you're welcome to unmute and ask the question again.
Yeah, go ahead. I think I might know what they're talking about. So if you apply to a residency and decline it, it does not affect your then future. Like there's nothing there, pretty much.
Right, actually, yeah, Dr. Mayer, you declined. Thank you. Yep, you touched on that. Go ahead.
So the only time that would affect something is it would affect it in certain states where you have to do a residency or you have to have been in practice for a certain number of years, like Utah, for example. I don't know if there's any other states, but I know Utah does require a residency, or it requires you to have been in practice for, don't quote me, but like 5 years or something. Right. So that affect it. Other than that, no, it doesn't affect it to decline if you think that a residency is something that you want, but are not like 100% sure on it.
I've heard that other states are going that direction as well. Nothing's like solidified, but other states are kind of jumping on board with that, some kind of postgraduate training. So I don't know if that'll come, but
Yeah, as
Yeah.
far as I know, it's still only Utah right now. So, but yeah, interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. Glad we got that cleared out. All right, we did address Dee's question about how many hours in your residency rotation. So thank you there.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, I was wondering what the process has been in terms of insurance coverage for ND services in practice, and if it's facilitated or leveraged more by partnering with other physicians such as MDs or DOs versus a solo practice.
I
So
think
I'll-
that's,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. I think that's going to kind of depend on what you want to do in practice. Like our practice doesn't take any insurance. We are happy to run labs and imaging through insurance. But for us, we believe that our visits are best, like we give the best care outside of that system. So I think you will see, especially if you go to school, my recommendation is to shadow at clinics that take insurance and don't take insurance. You can get a better idea of like what that looks like for you. I would think that probably being in an MD practice might be helpful, but I don't know. Michelle probably has more information on that.
Yeah, our office is an MD office, but currently it is not legal to run insurance through an MD if you're an ND, right? M for Mary and for ND. But I'm on the board of AZNMA, and there is currently a bill that just unanimously passed the Senate that in regards to insurance. So for Arizona, unlike other states, for Arizona, it's, I mean, probably in the next 5 years, NDs are going to be included in your typical state-run insurance. This one, we've been trying to write a bill and get it through the legislation for the past 4 or 5 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that. And there's some pushback. But this time it seems like it's really going to start moving through, the House as well. We do the same as Alex. We don't bill anything at our office, but we do have labs and imaging billed through that facility wherever you send your patient. So any ND can do that on your own. You do run into some roadblocks if you're billing access and Medicare. Those are federally run programs. Access is actually state programs, but they get their federal money from Obamacare. So it's kind of the same thing. And when you talk about insurance, it's really important to realize that taking insurance is great, but a lot of what we do as NDs is not covered by insurance because it's experimental. So it really, the important part of the insurance and being able to bill is reimbursement rates. And right now, a lot of NDs are not, in other states, are not getting really good reimbursement rates, not equal to the counterparts. And so that's one thing that AZNMA is trying to get through on bills and stuff is insurance, but also an equal billing rate or reimbursement rate. So.
Okay, we have another question in there. Being that we are striving to be holistic doctors, is it a requirement to get a COVID vaccine? Who'd like to go first with that one?
I think if I understand the question right, as far as like practicing as a naturopathic doctor, you're not required. In terms of education, it's up to the institution at that point. So it would be different. I don't know what all the different institutional policies are as far as the naturopathic medical schools. So yeah, it would just be individualized by institution.
My understanding with this question is that all offices are doing things differently. All offices are really doing things differently, and it's really up to the practice, what their comfort level is, their beliefs, their patient base, all that kind of stuff. Every single office that I know has a different policy in terms of this.
My question really is for SCNM, like, do we have to get a COVID vaccine in order to attend school?
So at this sorry, someone else want to answer that? Okay. At the current moment, my understanding of the policy is that, yes, you would be required to be vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccine for 2 doses. Booster's not requirement at this time, but the first 2 doses.
Thank you for touching on all of that. That is correct. Currently, the policy as of November 1st, in line with the other naturopathic schools, we do require full vaccination, or you can reach out to the Dean of Students office. They do offer medical or religious exemption as well. So based on your personal circumstances, definitely ask more questions and we'll put you in touch with the Dean of Students office and see what we can do to accommodate you for sure. I did notice we skipped over a quick question for you, Dr. Greathouse. Are residencies paid?
Yes, the question of the hour. Yes, residencies are paid. Specifically at SCNM, it kind of goes stepwise depending first year, second year, third year. The average residency for a naturopathic doctor is going to start out as a first year somewhere in the realm between 38,000 and 50,000 a year. 50,000 would be really good. And then second year kind of being, 40 to 52 and kind of incrementally that way. We do have some third year residencies, but then it kind of depends where you're at, if you've been at the same place and those kinds of things. And yeah, a lot of people complain like, oh, residents are underpaid and overworked. My perspective, I guess, I don't know if maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe I just enjoy the work that much. I don't feel overworked. And especially at SCNM, they allow us, the resident, to let them know if we are being overworked or feel that way, or if, doctors are asking us to do things that's not within our contract or, assignments or anything. Like we were able to say that. And so, I feel like I'm being compensated appropriately. I don't feel like I'm being overworked. And outside of SCNM, it kind of depends on the clinic. I know that I have a really good friend from the program. She's been at a clinic doing a residency for almost a year now, but unfortunately that clinic and their administration hasn't treated them the best. And so they've decided to leave, which is fine. But they were getting paid great there. They just were way overworked, not treated well. And so that's kind of individualized clinic to clinic. But yeah, if you do a residency, it's paid. There are also preceptorships where basically setting up a residency with a clinic can sometimes be a bear of a process for some clinics, depending how they operate and what they do, and gaining accreditation with the CNME, or National Accrediting Agency. And so you can do a preceptorship where you don't necessarily have to meet all those requirements, but it's still, you're working under another doctor and getting that mentorship and education. So those are kind of.
Okay, a couple of follow-up questions. So I had a conversation earlier today, and this is great. I wrote this down. I'm glad I remembered to bring this back up tonight, because the candidate asked me in a roundabout way, how are your graduates, are they adequately paying back their student loans? So I want to pose that question out there for all of you. If you had student loans, do you feel you're in a position where you're adequately paying them back? And so then coming back to you, Dr. Greathouse, is a residency an opportunity where are you able to still defer your loans at this time? Is that considered still continued education?
So outside of the grace period, that 6-month post-grad grace period, there is not another true deferment. So what most graduates, or residents, I should say, at least at SCNM, they will do either like income-based repayment, where then, they acknowledge, okay, I'm making this much, so I'll pay these. Or actually how it works out nicely, you can do, SCNM is considered a nonprofit organization. And so you can work for SCNM for 10 years, and then your loans are then considered for the word I'm looking for is blanking, but essentially forgiveness, considered for forgiveness, which there is still a certain portion that you are required to pay back, but it's significantly less than what you would. So working for a nonprofit that way is another way around, which I've seen a lot of docs do.
So my understanding with that is that you still, like, if it's forgiven, it's put on your tax return as income that year. So you still have to pay a large amount. And I think that is like a very, it is something that a lot of docs will say. And I think with the student loan question, I think you're, well, going into practice on my own, yeah. I mean, we're paying back our student loans, like we do just fine. But we worked our asses off to get here. And I don't want to sugarcoat that. Like in my first year of practice, I TA'd at the school. I taught night school at Brown Mackie College from 6 to 10. I taught MAs and nurses, and then I did my private practice during the day. And I networked like a beast to get it going. I would say like, we have a lot of new grads come in our office looking for jobs, and they do, I feel like want really like high salaries. And I think that with residencies, a residency is a good place to start, like to think about as a new grad, because when I first started practice, I mean, I seriously did not make a lot of money, and I was working my ass off. But it's all come to fruition, and it was totally worth it. But I think that there is an aspect of like, when you first get out, I would anticipate that like a residency salary makes sense, and then you work your way up. But I think that doctors are doing fine paying back their student loans. I also feel like the faster you get good financial advice, the better, because there are a lot of ways to pay off your student loans, and working every single hour for your pay is probably not going to be the fastest way to do that. So that's something that I learned too. But I think doctors do just fine with this, but I'm glad that students are asking that question.
I would agree with Alex. I think that there are some docs that struggle. And I'm not sure if it's because they can't put in the hours because of family life, or decided they wanted to do part-time, or just not, I hate to say it, being a good doctor and or bringing in patients or whatever the case may be. But if you know your stuff, if you're ambitious, you can definitely make the money to pay back your loans and live, for that matter. And like Alex, I had 3 jobs the first 2 years when I was out of school. I had my private practice. I was teaching at SCNM, and I was working at the office that I'm at now part-time. And I did learn a few things about running a business. So I'm not as averse to running a business as I might have been when I first got out of school. It's more fun for me now than it was back then, because I'm actually making money and have a clientele. So when you're trying to run a business and nobody wants to come in, you don't like running that business. But anyway, yeah, I think a lot of NDs are doing just fine paying back their loans. I know quite a few in our class that have already paid off their loans. So it can be. There was another question. I graduated with $250,000 in loans. It's like a house you can never sell.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, just to speak, I guess, towards more of the debt question. When I started the 4-year program, the cost of tuition and all that alone, if you paid cash, was $148,000. It's probably increased just a little bit. I haven't run the math in 4 years, but and then on the other side of the spectrum, if you take out every loan that you possibly can at its max, you're looking upwards of close to maybe 300,000. But that's why I love our financial team at the school, because they literally will sit down with you to figure out, based on your budget and the lifestyle you want to live while in school, and et cetera, how much in loans that you should take out for both school and your personal expenses, which is really nice. Some people choose to, save up before coming, or, start a different business to pay for school, or I've heard all kinds of crazy stories on how people have paid for school. But yeah, there's tons of options. So.
Yeah, and in my situation, I actually took out the full loans. I lived with family during school, and I put that money away in a savings so that when I graduated, I could use that money to start my business.
Great feedback. All right, still checking through the chat. Looks like another question around residency. By which year do I need to know whether or not, whether I want to do residency or not? Also, is it better to speak with my advisor or future employer when I need advice on the residency?
Yeah, so I had the deadline as far as submitting your residency application is during your 4th year in the program. It's, I gotta think back to, I believe the submission would have been February, so it would have been about 6-ish months before, or 4 months before graduation, that you had to submit your application and have that in. So, there's no pressure up until that point. You have plenty of time to decide. And then as far as, I would speak to anyone that you can about residency, future mentors, your advisors, other residents at where you're getting your education. Just any of them, because it is a big decision. It affects the trajectory, of your career, and it's another year or two that you're investing and living on a minimal salary. And so, yeah, talk to everybody.
Let's see, it looks like another question in there. I know that licensing is different in different states is a tricky topic, but say you get licensed in Arizona, are you able to move to a different state and practice in one that does not currently license NDs? It's a good question.
I can also speak to this. So coming out of school, you do obtain a license. You can apply a license for Arizona, but you can also go to, if another state licenses NDs, you can move from Arizona and go to that state and apply for the license. We have a resident that came from Bastyr in Washington, got their license in Arizona and practices, or even if you're not doing residency. But as far as if a state does not license NDs, you can't have, even if you have a license in, so say, for example, I want to move to North Carolina. They currently don't license NDs. Me having an Arizona license for an ND does not give me licensure in North Carolina, a non-licensed state. It doesn't allow me to practice under that license there. But it does allow me to still, and there's some different intricacies with it, but I could still see people in or from Arizona. And again, there's kind of a whole, that's another conversation, but and so I do know docs that they'll keep a license in Arizona, a license in Vermont, a license in Washington, kind of these different states, and that kind of gives them some leeway to see people in different states. And then also you have to throw in some of the intricacies too, as far as that can get complicated with travel and blah blah blah. But there are also a ton of NDs that are practicing in unlicensed states and doing phenomenal. And doing really, really well. And you just have to, know your boundaries and the law, have a good lawyer, and also be, business savvy in that way. So yeah, tons of options there. I had no concerns coming into naturopathic medicine as far as licensed or unlicensed state. So yeah.
You kind of confused me a little bit though. So I want you to backtrack just a tiny bit. So you're licensed in Arizona, but you and your wife are planning to move to North Carolina. Are you going to be able to see patients and treat people and help people in North Carolina? I missed something.
Not under my Arizona license, but sorry, I should say I cannot help people not in Arizona. So for example, if I have patients in Arizona, there's a requirement that so often each year I have to see them in person for a physical exam to keep up with, those things. And Dr. Mayer, Dr. McConnell, please, you guys are out there doing it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to see them physically a certain number of times per year. But outside of that, those other visits can be telemedicine and virtual, as long as that problem, if there's a new problem, then that kind of brings in some other things. But so, if I've seen them in Arizona, but then I'm in North Carolina the rest of the year, I can see people from Arizona under my Arizona license in that way. It gets a little tricky, but I just can't see anyone else in any other states without licenses in those states. Is that better?
I'm still a little concerned about patients in North Carolina.
No, you can't. You would have, if you were to see people in North Carolina, it would be as an unlicensed ND. You can't.
Okay,
practice.
I think that's really, I think that's what
Yeah.
we want to hear is, okay, so I know there's Dr. Michael Smith, who is an alumni of ours. He is in North Carolina. Like, we have alumni in North Carolina that do have clients. Maybe they're
Yes.
not called patients. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, that is a good distinction. And so, as far as if you're practicing in that unlicensed state, seeing people in that unlicensed state, then you are unlicensed. You don't practice as a doctor. You're essentially, some people would say, a health consultant. There's kind of some other, terminology, but that's where you talk to the lawyers and talk to the docs that have been practicing in that state for however many years, and talk to the board there, the naturopathic board, and get all that sorted.
Yeah, the boards in each state are really helpful. AZNMA actually collaborates with many states. Our executive director is executive director for other states, and so they're a wealth of information. You can't practice in a state that you haven't tested for your license. And if that state is licensed, you can get your license there and see patients. You can be in Arizona if you have your Arizona license and see patients in whatever state you are also licensed in. So that's not a problem. When you have states that are unlicensed, that's where it gets really individual.
Thank you for the additional elaboration. Sorry to put you guys on the spot. All right. Sorry, Dr. McConnell, I was trying to find you that Wi-Fi password and I am struggling over here. So we're down to the wire. We've just got a couple minutes left. I appreciate you hanging on. So we do have a question here. Does that apply to telemedicine? I think, Dr. Greathouse, you kind of addressed that a little bit. You can see patients in states where you're licensed through telemedicine.
Yeah, so the telemedicine still falls under the same guidelines, and it holds to the and going off of what Dr. McConnell said, if you hold licenses in multiple states, you can see patients in those multiple states by telemedicine as well, but your license is held to the scope of practice where that patient is located.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm licensed in Arizona and Washington, but the patient lives in Washington, I have to practice under the scope that Washington naturopathic doctors are licensed for. I can't use my Arizona license to see them. So then, in another state where the license might be minimal, I have to abide by that.
Got it. All right, so we have a couple more minutes. So I'm just going to ask, I'm going to go to the end of our questions here real quick, because I want to know from all three of you, what do you feel has been your biggest challenge? Whether you're in private practice or group practice or residency, what's been your biggest challenge?
For me personally, and I think a lot of people could echo this, but to this point in my career, is the battle with myself through the whole process. I kind of alluded to that with myself being my own, greatest critic. All those thoughts that come up of like, can you do it? What's it going to look like? Are you going to fail? Are you going to fail the other people in your life? And those kinds of things. And that takes really intentional daily, affirmation against those things, right? No, I have been equipped with the knowledge. I have the skills to find answers that I don't know. I have mentors around me that are more than willing to help. I have examples of those who have gone before me, Dr. Mary, Dr. McConnell, and done these things in all different, aspects of practice. And I was determined that I would not let myself be the reason I did not achieve being an ND. And so that has been the toughest thing of kind of reworking all that stuff and from the ground up. And we always tell students coming into the program, if you have something in your life that you haven't dealt with, medical, relationship, otherwise, it's probably going to come up while you're in school. It's just that always happens. We don't know why. It just always happens. And so trying to really get a hold, don't let that scare you, from coming into school. But it's, even though it's scary, it's really helpful to get after those things and address them from the ground up sooner rather than later. So then you can really just chase your dreams.
Very good.
I think my biggest challenge, it's changed over time, and it depends on where I've been in my practice. And when I first started practice, my biggest challenge was definitely figuring out how to market as an introvert, and not being the person that can go out and like talk to people. Like, there's some people that have this magical gift of being able to walk up to people and just be like, hi, I'm this and I do this, and that's not me. And so trying to figure that piece out, like learning that, I think was my biggest challenge. Also like when you get out of school, financially, it's not easy to start a practice. And so that was definitely a challenge. But now I would say my biggest challenge now is, I guess I should say in the middle, I would say my biggest challenge was learning to say no to patients that were not good patients for me. I have a very set patient that I love to work with, a patient that I enjoy having in my office. And there's definitely been times at my practice where I've been referred patients that, like, honestly, I see them on the schedule and I'm like, ooh. And so being able to say no to those was a challenge, and learning how to do that. And now my biggest challenge is like personnel development and maintaining an excellent staff. Like, we have an excellent staff. And so being able to grow in my leadership skills and being able to keep them engaged in growing our practice is what we're working on right now. So I think it just depends on where you are in your journey. Challenges never stay the same.
Yeah. And that's a good challenge that you have, actually, growing your practice, So
wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
For me, I think Alex nailed it on the head. It definitely changes. When I first got out of school, I think the financial part of it, and how busy I was, and trying to make time for myself at the time that I most needed it, because I was so exhausted from school. But now I think, and then I think that a big one for me was knowing my worth, and not, giving away everything that I know. We used to do, we still do, but we used to do meet and greets to get patients in. And I knew if they got in front of me, that, I would end up having them as a patient, because I think I'm a good doctor. But I also gave away a lot of free medicine, and I did not charge for my skills that I should have for many years. We sometimes see ourselves as not being as important or as valuable as other doctors. And I think it's exactly the opposite. I think that we are very valuable, and there's out there that need our care. And we just have to know that what we know and what we've learned and all the things that we picked up even after school makes us a great doc. And I had to learn the hard way by giving away years of free medicine.
I think you hit the head, Michelle. that's so important. I think that a lot of people end up with a large amount of imposter syndrome at different times, right? And everybody's gone through it. So if you do go through school and you end up with that feeling, almost everybody's had that feeling. So, you know, talking to other doctors, I think, is important, because that is a big one that I definitely forgot. And I think that's really important.
Networking,
good.
and you'll never stop learning. You even just said, even what you learned after school, like the relationships, the networks that you have now, that whole new community and family. You guys, I know we are over time. It's 6:05. Thank you so much. This has been
Very
a really
much.
incredible, extremely valuable hour. We have this recorded. I'm going to go ahead and pause on that note. Thank you all so much for this tremendous evening.